One. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football home over at fakepigskin.com. I'm your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. It's Thursday. It's DFS time. It's the real Bobby Adcock. What's up, Bobby?
What's up, Kyle? Man, I'm back. I'm fired up for is it week 8 now we're
Week
in?
8. Yeah, I know. Season halfway over after this week.
Yeah, everyone's played about 6, 7 games, so we kind of have a good idea about a little bit of good idea about who these teams are and
Yeah,
kind of player roles are kind of solidified. So yeah, no, it's exciting. I'm just excited to keep it going.
absolutely. Me too. I'm very excited. I'm feeling pretty good about this week. I'm looking at my. I've been making a little spreadsheet to track all my positions of the guys I like and kind of keeping track of prices and helps me with kind of clarity as I'm setting lineups and creating potential winners. So let's go position by position like we always do, and let's start at quarterback. If you're looking at quarterback this week, who's the guy or that stands out the most to you?
Well, I think if you're looking up, at this point, what are you gonna do with like Patrick Mahomes? Is there anything? Is there any matchup? Is there any way? I mean, is he not really worth 7,000? I think I'm fine with spending up there with him.
Mm-hmm.
So that'd be like at the top. I think that's fine. I'd rather take him over Rodgers. What are you looking at in like the middling, maybe $6,000 range?
So it's going to be a little tough this week. I can definitely understand if people are wanting to fade this guy, but I'm going back to Andy Dalton this week. I know last week was really, 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 really bad, and we expected a good performance, and he just laid a fat egg. I like this matchup. I like Dalton at home, facing that Tampa Bay defense that just continues to deal with injuries and be just relatively terrible. And at 6,200, I think it's a good price. I think he's expensive enough where a lot of people will fade him at price or because of what happened last week. And I think he has the potential, especially in a game that I expect to be a shootout, to go for 350 and 3 or 4 touchdowns.
Okay, and that's fine, but or at least are you ready to acquiesce that the Bengals are just a very average, mediocre team? Is that were you ready to do that?
Yeah, but I think on certain weeks against bad defenses, they'll look a lot better than they are, and against other weeks when they're playing better teams, they'll definitely lay a stinker. But I think them and Tampa Bay are two teams that I think on a given week can beat almost any team in the NFL, but on a given week can also lose to almost any team on the NFL.
That's fair. I think, yeah, I think the biggest thing is offensively, both teams
Hmm.
usually can score with anyone. I think just what happened last week with Cincinnati is they just got overwhelmed with like a lot of teams do to Kansas City, and it gets to a point where you're down 3, 4 scores, and it's like, okay, this game is over.
Hmm.
We can no longer even game plan the way we can. So yeah, I do. I think this is a popular game to be a shootout, and I would anticipate the same. Moving down a little bit. Well, let's stick in that range a little bit. Um, Make a choice here between these two guys. I'm conflicted. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, Andy Luck at 6,300. Quite the performance last week against the hapless Bills, and he's played really well. In general, I think all year long he's put up numbers against good teams, against bad teams. Fantasy wise, yeah, he's been fantastic. Him or Big Ben at home, 6,100 against the Browns.
That's see. Probably luck. I even though Ben at home is definitely a very compelling way to go. These interdivision rivals, I don't know. These games are always a little more weird than you expect. Like I remember the game a couple weeks ago between Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, where we kind of expected both offenses to perform really well, and obviously coming off the bye week, Ben's been solid. But if you want to talk about a guy who might have a massive day, I think the Colts defense is bad enough where the Raiders will put up points and force Luck to continue to throw. Um, But I wouldn't blame you for going the other way. I think these are both very similarly priced quarterbacks for a reason. What about you? Where are you placing your chips?
If I had to pick one there, I think it's I I think I'm going Big Ben at home just
Mm,
because of the firepower on that offense and kind of like having a little more extra upside, just with all Brown, uh, Connor. Connor's proven to be a revelation really out of the backfield. I mean, what can you say at this point, right? I mean,
yeah,
he's catching passes, he's running the ball, doing everything. So, um, and he's making the tight ends even making them relevant too. So I think I'm going Big Ben there, but yeah, that's one where I think if you look in that range, that's a tough pair to choose between.
yeah. No, and there's a lot of guys. I mean, Luck, obviously, Dalton. I think Jameis is interesting, kind of in that range.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can go wrong, kind of with a lot of those quarterbacks, but it's definitely. Where is Jameis? I could have sworn. Oh, he's already in my lineup. That's why. So 6,000. So yeah, I think so if you rank, I guess rank the four quarterbacks if you're setting them in your lineup. Big Ben obviously over Luck. Where does Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston fit in that amongst those other two guys?
I would probably go Ben, Luck, Jameis, Red Rifle. Um, maybe it's just my hatred for gingers, but that's I'd put him last. But that doesn't mean he's going to be bad. I just that's my personal preference.
Yeah, yeah, no, man, that's tough. I think I might put Dalton at the top, and then maybe that's crazy, but yeah, they're all in that range. They're all very tempting. I could see myself ending up with lineups kind of involving all of them because I do love pieces as we get through this other positions. I love pieces of their offense. Is there any cheaper options at quarterback you really like this week?
Oh, this is where I really get excited. Is just the kind of the dirty, almost disgusting plays. You look at it, you go, "Oh my God, why would you play this person?" It gets exciting, just like the guy who played Brock Osweiler and won the Millionaire
Yep.
Maker a few weeks ago. So I think a just a nice little inexpensive stack this week, sneaky stack, could be popular. Who knows? For all we know, Mr. Josh Rosen at 4,800 looked like absolute puke in your mouth on Thursday Night Football. It seems like a month ago now, but that was so bad.
Yeah.
All the sacks, all the interception, turnovers to the house. So, and I, assuming he's healthy, I think all indications are he's going to start. 4,800. Last time they went against the Niners, they were able to put up some points. I think they're at home. They're coming off a really really bad loss. I think they would come out and play up a little bit against a team that's given up a lot of points to everybody. So I think Josh Rosen at 4,800, and I even what are your plays at that level?
Yeah, so Rosen, I took a long hard look at because I thought this was a guy that like you mentioned, he's at home, he's playing against a bad defense, he's got potential, but I can't pull the trigger there. I'm a little bit north of there. I'm looking at $5,100 and Case Keenum. I think
Yes.
Denver has the ability to produce. Obviously, Sanders and Thomas, and I think this is going to be a good spot where Case, yeah, he's not always super consistent. And the game at Arizona, you think, oh, well, he didn't play very well. Well, they also got up huge early with two pick sixes, thanks to your boy Josh Rosen. But coming into that game, he had 377 yards against the Jets and 322 yards against the Rams, two touchdowns in each of those games. Has the ability to run a little bit. I think he has a really nice game here. I think he makes this game relatively close. And obviously, like you mentioned, Andy Dalton like performance happen to him where everything just kind of avalanches and the Chiefs get up massive? Sure. But I think there's going to be enough of a lead where he'll have to throw, but I think he'll perform well. I like his pass catchers this week, and at $5,100. I think he's a great value at quarterback.
I agree with that one. I think that's very. I think that makes a lot of sense with him with the matchup with Kansas City. They kind of their whole model is we're just going to outscore you and good luck.
Yeah.
And Keenum's been they've been a little bit shaky at times offensively, but he's still proven he can make plays. Sanders having a great year.
Yeah.
So I think they got some weapons there. Philip Lindsay's a playmaker. He can break big plays. So he can catch passes out of the backfield from Keenum. I think that makes a lot of sense at 51.
Anybody else we want to talk about before we jump over to running back?
There is one I'd love to talk about, and this now I'm not going to say you should go out throw him in every lineup, but if
but
you
you're
just
not
want
saying don't throw him in every lineup.
But no, I'm just saying if you want to get really dirty and get really GPP and just hey whatever, what about Mr. Lamar Jackson at $4,400? He just kind of jumps out to me a little bit. You saw last week in that game, he's starting to get more involved in these goal line packages. He's kind of like a different version of New Orleans Taysom Hill a little bit. And look, it's almost like taking the quarterback position and making it like a cheap wide receiver who's touchdown dependent, right? It's all it is. If he gets a touchdown, if he gets a touchdown, he kind of almost gets what you need from him as far as if you're actually starting him, because he gives you the room to get a bunch of other guys at running back and receiver. So he will be going. I'm going to get cute in a few lineups. He's going to be in there, and I think he's going to be in there. Moving forward in weeks to come. Hey, just why not throw him out there? And who? Not that I'm cheering for. I'm not cheering for injuries, but if something were to happen to Joe Flacco, yes, I think you'd see him take over and not Robert Griffin.
You've seen this happen where guys have won the Millie Maker or done really well in GPPs because they played a backup that ended up becoming the starter early in the game, taking over and performing really well. I think Lamar Jackson's absolutely in that camp where he could do that. But like you mentioned, it's a guy that you're hoping gets a touchdown. Obviously they play him at receiver, they use him at running back, they play him at quarterback. There's plenty of opportunity for him to, be worthy of that 4,400. And if it allows you to play Gurley and Barkley and AJ Green and Antonio Brown and all these other studs, it's definitely a way to go. And I don't hate that, and I might have to dabble and see what kind of lineups I can construct because the potential is there for him to have a really strong week. Let's talk running backs and let's talk about those studs. Are you paying up for Gurley? Are you paying up for Barkley, James Conner, Joe Mixon, any of those guys?
Yeah, I think so. I think kind of the model a lot of times this year has been to pay up at running back. I think Gurley at this point is showing that he's on. I mean, he's on pace. I think for in the 30 touchdowns in that range. He kind of is worth it if you're looking at week to week and kind of the supply of touchdowns and points that are available week to week. So as much as I don't like doing that a lot, some guys are just they can justify it, and he does. So yeah, I don't mind paying up for maybe one of them, Gurley, Saquon, but I think two of them is tough because there are, I think, they're pretty obvious plays in the 5K range that I think are going to make or break a lot of contests this week in terms of who really pops out of those guys. If we want to, so what do you think? What do you think about the top guys, and do you want to talk about the 5K range guys?
So I don't think I'll be playing Gurley or Barkley. I guess if I had to play one, probably Gurley, just because I trust that offense more, and he's a little bit more. He's most expensive, but I do like in that kind of $7,000 range. I love Kareem Hunt. Mm-hmm. This is a guy that's 3 of his last 4 games has been basically 30 fantasy points or more. And the one he didn't have a great game was Jacksonville. But this guy's so involved, passing game, running game. A great opportunity. He had almost 30 points against Denver last time these two teams played. Obviously, being at home, it gives them a nice boost. And, he could easily be the number one running back at the end of the week. And when you can save 2,000, 3,000 on Gurley and Barkley, I think it's absolutely a great way to look.
Yeah, I agree because I think what happened with him, he started a little bit slower in terms of the touchdowns.
Yeah.
And now that offense is kind of just like, got itself going a little bit in a normal game scripts and everything. He's still Kareem Hunt, still the same guys last year. And yeah, like you said, saving, 2,000 or whatever, $7,000, he could easily be the number one running back this week. So he has that upside in that offense. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
So if we're looking in that kind of $5,500 to $5,000 range, obviously you like a bunch of guys there. I do too. Who is kind of your favorite? Like who stands out the most in that range?
I think Marlon Mack. If he's healthy and he's getting the full workload like he did last week, he's got the matchup. He's got the role as far as he's catching passes. He's kind of mostly a 3-down back for the most part, and he's also getting the goal line work in a good matchup. So I just think at 5,400, he kind of makes the most sense as opposed to maybe a guy like Kerryon, who I love. I'm a Lions fan. He looks like maybe possibly one of the steals, or if not the steal of the draft. He's still a goal line risk where Blunt is involved in the goal line. So as much as I love him, he may be not getting some of those goal line work. So I love Mac there. I still do like Kerryon. And then Nick Chubb. I think he's one that jumps out as obvious. He's everyone knows he's the number one back there now. He's going to get the volume, 15, 20 touches, maybe more, depending on game flow, and getting the goal line work. So I think he makes a lot of sense. Pittsburgh's been vulnerable defensively to kind of everything in general this year. So I think those three guys are going to really be a big focus, I think, for running backs this week amongst all players.
Yeah, I want to throw Phillip Lindsay in that mix. It looks like there's potential that Royce Freeman doesn't even play in this game on Sunday. So if that's happening, you feel a lot better about the consistency of his touches. So Phillip Lindsay I love in this matchup. If we go a little bit lower, there's actually three names that stand out I want to get your thoughts on. Obviously, no Marshawn Lynch, so Jalen Richard at 4,200 is very interesting to me. Raheem Mostert at 3,800 is a great option, I think. Continues to get a lot of work, really explosive with what the volume he gets. Where in other games where the Niners might be getting blown out, he may not get as much volume, where in this game against Arizona, it should be a lot closer, and he should be able to kind of get volume. And, you kind of talked up Nick Chubb, but I think I like Duke Johnson better. And I know last week, obviously, Chubb got all the work. So if he's getting that kind of volume, he's going to be absolutely worth playing at his price. But 3,900 for Duke Johnson, if this game gets a little sideways, Steelers get up kind of big, I could see him getting a lot of work in the passing game and actually being involved in this game. So at 3,900, I don't hate him either.
Okay, yeah, and I do. I have Johnson in like a bunch of season-long leagues, and I think I'm just starting to take it personal at this point. So I'm just ignoring it because they have been down. I mean, they were even down late by 2 scores last week, and it's still I think he's a good player in general, like in real football, but the production just isn't really been there no matter what happens. So I've moved on mentally from him, and I'm pretending like he isn't there. So, it's fine there. Another guy, and I like the Mostert play with the Niners. Another guy in that game I miss when we were talking about higher guys is David Johnson at 6,700. Yeah. Another guy. I mean, it's just one of those guys that. Obviously, the Cardinals are a mess. The offense is a bit of a mess, but this is a week where they have a good matchup. They were able to score points against this team a few weeks ago when they played, and he had a nice game. I think he's a guy who, this is a week where 6,700, he has the upside to outperform that price. I think he's just going to get better as the season goes along. I know the Cardinals blow, but he's still good. And this is a week where I like I talk about the Cardinals. I think they're a sneaky stack this week, an inexpensive stack that can make you afford a bunch of other guys. So
Yeah.
I like David Johnson in that game as well. In sticking with the lower price guys, liked all your suggestions. And another guy I wanted to kind of throw out there was as a dart throw is Rojo in Tampa. I wrote about him a little bit in the running back rankings on Fake Pigskin this week that we did, and just I know that there's no really great stat line to point to, but in the second half last week they did turn to him for a goal line carry when they needed it, and he converted. And I think as the season moves along, I just believe that this staff needs to win. This is their second round pick.
Yeah.
At some point they have to turn to him and give him a chance. It doesn't matter what he's doing in practice. Peyton Barber isn't doing anything. So I do believe at some point you're just going to see him all of a sudden one week he's going to get 15, 20 touches, and you're going to be like, all right, here we go. So, hey, if you're willing to take a chance, this is a good matchup in a week where if he gets those touches, he could have a nice week.
Yeah, no, I like that call. I think in terms of talent, it's obviously there. It was nice to see him get that goal line work. He's still being involved enough. 10 carries in his first game, 6 obviously last week. I want to get your thoughts on Chris Carson against your Lions. We've seen the Seahawks kind of recommit to that running game a little bit. Obviously a good matchup, and he's very, very reasonably priced at 4,300. Is he a guy that's kind of in the cards for you, or are you spending up or paying down at running back when you get to that kind of that range?
Well, Kyle, he was a guy, and I'll tell you that part of my whole thing I think we talk about usually each week is target this Lions rush defense. It is abominable, and it is. Last week we went with Gore, but it turned out Kenyon Drake was the one who broke off a 54-yard touchdown run.
Yeah.
So the theory played out, but it was just the wrong guy. I mean, they're still giving up huge plays in the run game. However, I think maybe the one thing that I can hope for is that they made a trade this week. I think people have heard about for Snacks Harrison, one of the best run stoppers in the game. And I think he's supposed to play. He's been practicing. So I think Look, are they going to be like the Baltimore Ravens of 2000? No, but I think it goes from being this defense that you can target with almost any running game every week to blow up. I think it now at least moves to like an average, run stopping defense where they can at least do the job against average run offenses like a Chris Carson in Seattle. I mean, I like Chris Carson, but he's an average running back. I don't think he's gonna all of a sudden have some great performance against average to above average defenses. So I liked him a lot more. I was getting ready to come on and say the same thing about Chris Carson, and even I was going to mention Rashad Penny this week. But since that trade, I tend to kind of go, okay, I'm going to wait and see, and I'm going to kind of avoid that a little bit this week. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little more optimistic about his potential, and I think if he gets that volume, he'll have a nice day. But he is in a weird price range where it's almost like, let me spend a few $100s more to get someone I feel a little more comfortable about, or let me save a few $100s and take more of a flyer. I don't feel like he's kind of priced where like I'm gonna really want to get him in my lineup. I'm like, oh yeah, let me spend a couple $100s more and get Philip Lindsay or get Marlon Mack, or let me spend a few hundred less and take a shot with Duke Johnson or Jalen Richard. So, but yeah, he is definitely intriguing. That Snacks Harrison trade, I'm really curious to see how that pans out this weekend and going forward, and see how big of a difference he makes. Let's transfer and talk. Yeah. Let's talk some wideouts. Personally, for me, this is where a good chunk of my money is going to go this week. It seems like it does every week, but this week I love some guys. AJ Green 8,000 against that Tampa defense, love it. And then Antonio Brown 8,500 against the Browns. I think he's going to tear him up at home. We talked. You're obviously a little more excited about Big Ben than I am, but I think he has a big game here. So if you're spending up at receiver, who are you targeting?
Yeah, I mean, both the guys you mentioned are good. I still think you can even maybe if you want to pivot off of those guys, and I think Devontae Adams has just as high a ceiling.
Yeah.
He's still having some monster games. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to last all season, but hey, as long as he's out there, he's Aaron Rodgers. I mean, what the hell, right?
Yeah.
And he's been productive. He's just proven to be an alien like he always is. So, the Rams have been vulnerable against the pass. They're going to be scoring a ton of points, and the Packers are going to just go right to throwing the ball. So, Adams is a legit number one wideout in this league. He can get open against anybody. So I think he's gonna have another big game. If I'm spending up there, I think you can even save some money and get him too.
Yeah, I wonder if I might pivot off of him and go look at like Valdez Scantling or go look at Geronimo Allison, depending who plays. Just because if they have, we assume Talib's out, but Marcus Peters will probably be on Adams most of the game. So maybe Aaron Rodgers ends up going away, but like you said, Adams is such a stud that he can take advantage of matchups that may not seem ideal. So I think that's an interesting call. Is there anybody else in that upper price range, or do you want to start looking lower on the list?
Well, I think you hit the good guys, that I would go for as well. So I'll just move along kind of like you talked about with your Case Keenum call. I think Emmanuel Sanders at 6,500 makes a lot of sense. He's having on pace for a career year. He's having a great season, and he's in another great position to have another big week with the Kansas City secondary. And our boy, another guy we talk about, Tyler Boyd.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, like we talked about, he's no longer 5,000, 5,500. He's 6,700. And I think this week he's worth it. So if you want to pivot a little bit off of the very, very top echelon guys, I love Boyd this week to have another bounce back week along with the rest of that offense. I think they're going to be come out pretty hungry. So I love Boyd at 6,700.
What do you think about Doug Baldwin at 5,500? Obviously, in the game before the bye against the Raiders, he had six catches on eight targets, 91 yards. Finally seems like he's getting healthy. Obviously, they had the bye week to kind of work out some kinks to this offense. I feel like he's underpriced, and like we talked about with Ronald Jones, where he's just going to have a monster game where he just blows up. I think Doug Baldwin's going to kind of be amazing, and his price is going to go from 55 to 7 or 8 grand really quickly, and I think he's a guy that I want to jump on while I have this opportunity.
I love Baldwin, and he's one of the guys. I have him in a lot of season-long leagues as well, and kind of just waiting for him to kind of get along here. Like you said, before the bye, started to show some signs and that he's getting healthy. One of those guys who, again, under the radar, not properly priced as far as where we're in terms of his talent level and his production level. He's a guy, like you said, last year, probably towards the end of the season, he was probably above 7,000, I think. Yeah. I mean, he was a top wideout. So, 5,500. I love Baldwin. Lions defense. I think it will be a little bit improved, but still secondary outside of Darius Slay, and even he's been okay this year. He hasn't been like the all-pro type level play he's been in the past. Yeah. So, no, I think Baldwin has a big day against the Lions. The rest of that secondary isn't very good, and I think there's going to be a lot of scoring in this game as well.
I also like Chris Godwin, and as we kind of transition into the below 5,000, 4,500 I think is absolute steal. Him, Christian Kirk, and then Valdez Scantling, who I kind of referred to earlier, both in that range, feel like really good options. Where if you're looking for a little upside at receiver, that's not going to cost you too much. I think they're great ways to look.
Yeah, I like both Godwin and Deshaun Jackson. I believe is 5,300. He seems to be due for a Deshaun Jackson week at some point, right?
Yeah.
And this seems to be one of those weeks with the matchup they have to do it. Um, check the weather before this game because it's in Cincinnati. It's getting in that season, so we'll see what that is there. But if it's just a regular fall day, there's going to be a lot of points in this game. Neither of these two teams uh, can do a whole lot. Tampa's okay against the run, but against the pass, both these teams are very vulnerable. So no, I love. I like both those guys because they're the lower price guys. And Godwin's been all he's done this year is just get his 5-6 catches, 60, 70 yards, and a touchdown. He just he keeps doing it. So no, he's definitely a factor, and I like him at his price. I think a very good play.
Yeah. I'm looking at the Bears this week against the Jets. I don't know if there's a receiver that I will like pick out that I'm like there's my guy. Obviously Allen Robinson's banged up once again. Taylor Gabriel is interesting. Before last week had 200-yard weeks. Obviously Anthony Miller's still floating around. Is there one that you feel really strongly about, or is it just maybe target Mitchell Trubisky and let the offense do what it does?
Well, I like whichever receiver that Trubisky doesn't overthrow. And so that would be none of them, I guess, because I watched a lot of that game against New England last week, and he really the plays are there. These guys are getting open. I think Nagy is, as far as schematically, they have an advantage at their head coach. Like these guys are getting open. Anthony Miller's getting open. They're getting behind the secondary consistently, and he just cannot hit these throws. At least, look, he's not. He can have a bad day, whatever. And hopefully, it was a bad day for Bears fans and for him. But I mean, man, and so do I like him? I mean, yeah, I think Anthony Miller still makes sense because he's been consistently getting open, and especially if Allen Robinson's out. And two of my I put one of these guys as kind of a dart throw last week in lineups was Josh Bellamy. I put him in a few lineups just to see if he could be that less owned guy to blow up. And I'm telling you, he had like 2 or 3 deep passes were thrown his way where he was there, and they were Trubisky missed them obviously, but and also so it's there, but like they're just not connecting. And also Kevin White kind of made an appearance last week.
Yeah.
And he had 2 catches, I think, for 64 yards. So you start to see him get involved and kind of try to at least salvage what's left of like his rookie contract. I think he's in his last year of his rookie contract. So, man, if he could start getting involved and doing something, I think that would be nice for that offense. So if Allen Robinson does sit, yeah, I think throwing any one of those 3 guys out, especially like White and Bellamy as dart throws, sure. Look, they do have an offense where they spread it around and they throw it around a lot. Trubisky's just got to hit once he starts hitting these throws. If he does, yeah, and any one of these guys could make a big play. And Bellamy and White, all it takes is one play for them to return value.
Absolutely. Let's shift over and talk tight end. Are you paying up at tight end this week, or should we just fly right to the bottom where we always seem to find value?
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah. I mean, look, you can pay up. I think Cook is interesting now with the Amari Cooper being gone. I think he'll be interested. And let's talk about the Raiders for 1 second before we get deep into tight ends. So I want you to we're both gonna pick one, okay?
Okay.
So Doug Martin or Richard?
Jalen Richard.
Okay, Richard, I'm with you. Jordy or Martavis Bryant?
Seth Roberts.
Oh man, okay, fair enough. I will go. I'm gonna go Jordy.
Yeah. Of the two, I would lean Jordy, but Seth Roberts is a guy who's, even when Amari was there, would lead this team in red zone looks, who would get serious work with Derek Carr, and they have a clear connection. I'm going to be watching that game closely to see kind of how it breaks out with no Amari Cooper, but I think there's a legit chance where he's kind of the guy that emerges that no one really saw coming, and If you're actually, I didn't even really check his price this week, but you can probably get him for a song. 3,400. You could play him for $3,400.
Yep.
If you are looking for a punt play at wide receiver, I could see him 6, 7 catches and maybe a touchdown.
Yeah. No. Yeah. And he always seems to be a guy who just like all of a sudden has like has 2 catches for
Yeah.
50 yards and a touchdown. So yeah.
He is in concussion protocol though, so be kind of weary with that. But if he looks like he's good to go on Sunday, I don't hate him as a punt play.
Okay. Well, and then one last question for the Raiders, because this is what everyone's going to be doing this week with this team, is just they have to speculate and make a decision, and the prices are low enough where I think there's a big chance for value and a good matchup. So flex play now.
Okay.
Pick one. Pick one. Bryant, Jordy, or Cook.
Jared Cook.
Okay, Jared Cook.
I trust the volume there. I trust the reliability. And if you told me one of those guys scored a touchdown, my bet would be on Jared Cook.
Okay, I'm going to stick with Jordy, but again, I think with what's going on with this team in general, it's anyone's guess, and I think that's exactly what it is. I think it's a total guess. If anyone comes out and says, "Oh, it's," I mean, you can have a credible case for each one of them, basically. Yep. So, we'll see. But I'll go Jordy, but that's definitely going to be a situation everyone will be monitoring. So, that said, if we want to get more into tight ends, we talk about Cook. Obviously, he's a guy at 5K, very interesting. If Allen Robinson sits, Trey Burton was a target machine for Trubisky last week.
Yeah.
And he really looked like just a safety blanket guy that he was consistently looking his way, and just felt comfortable going to him and him getting open. So I think at 4,800 there. The rest of them I can kind of take or leave. I mean, Jordan Reed at 4,500. He hasn't had the production, the upside this year to kind of justify spending that. In my mind, what do you think about him?
So I don't mind Washington tight end if Jordan Reed is good to go. I think there's the potential that to attack this Giants defense with tight ends. So at 4,500, I don't hate it. I like David Njoku at 4,600, but he was also limited in practice on Wednesday, so you got to kind of see if he's going to be good to go. But if he plays, I think he has a great opportunity. But there's one guy that I'm going to be probably putting in most of my lineups, and that's Mr. C.J. Uzomah. If you look at this Tampa Bay defense, who just lost Quan Alexander, they've allowed 112, 86, 71, and 52 yards in the last 4 weeks to tight ends. Each of those tight ends has scored one touchdown. I think Uzomah gets a good number of yards. I think he finds the end zone. And at 3,500 is going to be probably my favorite tight end play of the week.
Well, I think you might have just convinced me. I liked him as well, and I have him in a really disgusting lineup that I'm going to share later.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's bad, but I'm excited too. I'll save my really big punt and play at tight end for that. But I for everything you mentioned, I like him too. And look, the matchup is there. Sticking in that game, I have OJ Howard in a lot of season long leagues, so I think I've liked him all year. He's showing that he's kind of the talent is coming to fruition. He's having a really nice year. So even with the injury, he's come back and been productive coming back from that. So I like OJ Howard too.
Yeah, no, I don't hate that call either. Let's shift our focus and talk defenses. I know they're expensive-ish, but I think the Bears are kind of the must-play of the week at defense. Obviously, being at home is great. They're facing Sam Darnold, who outside of one game has had a turnover in every single game. He has 2 picks against Detroit, 1 against Miami, but he also had a fumble in that game. He's been a turnover machine. He had 3 picks against Denver. That's touchdown. 1 pick against Denver, 3 picks against Minnesota, and 2 fumbles last week. So he puts the ball in the carpet, he turns it over, gives it to the other team. And like I said, I know they're at 4,100. It's a little more than you probably want to spend, but they feel very, very safe for a big week.
Yeah, I think last week too, in a lot of GPPs, you saw the most expensive defense. Like you saw the Rams, you saw the better defense. I think at the top, in the top 10 entries that won. So, and that's been most of a trend this year is people do invest in defenses. I do punt a lot, but no, I mean sometimes it's the obvious play is the one to go with, and yeah, the Bears certainly justify the cause at home against the Jets, and kind of coming off a kind of a sloppy, well, not sloppy. I mean they just played a really good offensive team, I guess I would say. So yeah, I like them. I think I'm a fan also of just looking at KC, looking at the Rams, because they overwhelm teams so much with their offense that they can take teams out of their rhythm and take them out of what they want to do, and they can also kind of then pin their ears back because they know they're passing, and they can create more turnovers and more mistakes. So I think at 2,600, I don't mind those plays at all.
What about Washington at 2,700? I know they're on the road, but they're facing Eli, and I think that could be a nice spot for them to perform well.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't mind that. I think at this point the Giants are just it's Eli's just dropping back and yelling blow the whistle, blow the whistle, blow the whistle. I mean it's a dump off to Saquon Barkley, or it's literally within 3 seconds he's firing it to Beckham or Shepard. Yeah, I don't mind Washington in there, but that could be kind of a sneaky, just like shootout game in my mind, where the Giants. I still think week to week the Giants just have they have enough weapons where they can kind of just bust loose on a lot of people with the talent. So yeah, I don't have a big opinion about Washington either way.
All right. So, do you have a favorite stack or any stacks you're specifically targeting this week before we run out our favorite lineups?
Well, as I mentioned, I think the Cardinals, just because of the cheapness. If you have like a David Johnson, Rosen, Fitzgerald, and that hits, man, you could really still pay up in a lot of other places. And I that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I don't hate a Brown stack with like Baker and Njoku, assuming he's playing, and maybe Jarvis Landry, or maybe Baker and David Duke Johnson and David Njoku. And obviously, I like the Dalton AJ Green. I like the Jameis and Chris Godwin, all that good stuff. Okay, so let's. Should I go first? Leave the floor for you for your amazing lineup, or do you wanna hit me with it?
Oh, you go first.
Okay.
Yeah,
so this is what I'm looking at. I'm gonna go Jameis at quarterback. I'm gonna go Phillip Lindsay and Raheem Mostert as my running backs. I'm gonna go Mike Evans, AJ Green, and Christian Kirk. I'm going to go Uzomah at tight end. It also allows me to get Kareem Hunt in my flex and the Bears defense.
Okay. All right. I like Uzomah, and those running backs scare me a little bit, but I mean, you're going to be scared by everything I say. So, should I just go for it?
Hit me with it. I'm so excited.
All right. We are going to running backs first, Todd Gurley and David Johnson.
That seems pretty good.
Right, it's great, right? It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's such a great line. Wide receivers, Devontae Adams, Tyler Boyd, Emmanuel Sanders.
I like it.
And this is where we get a little interesting. The tight end spot is Uzomah. We talked about him.
Yep.
Again, just another great player. And then that's my flex. At the tight end slot, we're going to go with Michael Roberts of the Detroit Lions. Uh,
Sure.
2 touchdowns last week. He may be getting a little more involved. 3 of his 4 catches on the year are touchdowns. This is a guy at Toledo in his senior year. This is his second year in the NFL. I believe he was their 3rd-round pick 2 years ago. And at Toledo in his senior year had like 14 touchdowns, a majority of them in the red zone. So he's kind of a touchdown hawk and a red zone threat guy. So someone that might be coming along and getting more involved for the Lions, especially in the red zone. So, again, 2,500 in the tight end slot, someone who really just needs, a couple of grabs, one of them being touchdown, good to go. At the defensive spot, this is getting a little ugly. We go at the bottom of the barrel. We're going to go the Denver Broncos at KC. Look, hey, all I can say is that at some point, someone's going to have to get to this alien, this freak, Patrick Mahomes.
And they've been one of the best performers against Mahomes all season long. So I think, it's obviously not going to make you feel comfortable, but I think it's one that could make a lot of sense.
Division rival, they're going to take it personally. They lost at home, Von Miller, he can get to anyone. So all it takes is one. So got Denver at KC for 2,000, and then Mr. Lamar Jackson at quarterback, $4,400, and I leave no money on the table, $0 left. So
that's one hell of a lineup.
I might just said it once, but that will be a lineup that will be set for sure.
Yeah, that might be a fun millie maker, because then basically Lamar takes over and the Chiefs get shut down, and all of a sudden you're feeling great about where your team is. Bobby, that was a weird lineup. That was a fun lineup, and if you guys want to follow along, obviously feel free to dabble with that. But good luck this week on DK. Obviously, in the comments on Twitter, send us your thoughts on your lineups, on ones you're putting together, your favorite guys to spend up on, your favorite guys to avoid this week, and we'd love to chat with you there. But for Bobby Adcock, I'm Kyle Robert, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
Good luck, everybody.